Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2022 action film Guns of Eden. The film is written and directed by Gregory Lamberson and it stars Alexandra Faye Sedergayan, Bill Kennedy, Peter Johnson, Nicole Colon, Dominic Luongo and Lynn Lowry. Right, okay, the film focuses on a character called Megan, who is a police officer. Now, we see at the beginning of the film, she is with her partner, played by Peter Johnson, Jeremy. They finish their shift doing their crime fighting, and at the end of the shift, they go in like a store. There's an attempted robbery, which she foils with her partner, but accidentally shoots another police officer. This obviously then leads her to choose to leave the police department on a bit of a downer, and her partner finds her and says, come camping with me this weekend and a couple of friends. It's what you need. She agrees to go. And then turns out to be the worst camping trip ever, because while there, her and her partner witness the local sheriff and his deputies murdering in cold blood a number of local drug dealers. This then leads to a cat and mouse film where Megan, her partner, and the two friends they brought out camping have to try and evade these local police, sheriff, and the local militia in order to stay alive. Right. Excuse me. What are my thoughts on Guns of Eden? Well, this is a very familiar type of story that we've seen many, many times before. It's, the hunting humans thing, the Rambo type thing. The twist here is that they've put a woman in the lead role, which is absolutely fine. I've seen many a film do that, and it actually works quite well here, to be perfectly honest. And this is exactly... If you like to put on an action film that is very simply made, with a very simple story, and a very cheap budget, then, you're probably going to be reasonably satisfied here. However, beyond that, this film offers nothing. There's no complexities. There's no depth. The dialogue's terrible. The script isn't good. And like I say, the low budget screams out occasionally at this film. A lot of the fringe performers, shall we say, are not very good in regards to the performance that they give. But I will say that the central performance, certainly by Alexandra Faye Sedergayan, who plays Megan, this police officer, is fine. In actual fact, I think she carries this film particularly well. And I think she handles the action scenes particularly well. I think what lets down a lot of the action scenes is the budget and the choreography. Not necessarily her and her performance. She carries the role off well. She's pretty badass, actually, a couple of times in the film. And I actually really quite enjoyed the setup. I thought the film took a little bit of care introducing us to this character of Megan and her partner, Jeremy. You got that these guys were partners. You got that there was a sense of loyalty and respect there. You understood the plight she was in, and you kind of felt sympathy for her in regards to the accidental shooting of the police officer at the beginning. So I thought, regardless of the budget or anything like that, I thought the film did a reasonable job of setting this character up as a character that you can get behind, or certainly have some sympathy and empathy with and root for. Unfortunately, once the film kind of devolves into these characters running around in the woods trying to hide from this militia and this sheriff and his deputies, it then basically just becomes a shootout film or a hide and seek film, that sort of thing. Some characters get taken out. I'd like to say it in creative ways, but it's not really. It's one of those films that, uses like cheap CGI for the blood impact effects and things like that. There's lots of shooting. The militia, the actors playing like the militia characters lean very heavily into the stereotype that, these are southern people or very protective of their communities who will You know, they're even mocking each other, these militia, saying that they sleep with the cousins and all this kind of stuff. So it kind of mocks itself in some ways, the stereotype that it's presenting on screen, but it doesn't do it with a sense of irony or with its tongue in its cheek. Unfortunately, I think another reason why this film is not overly enjoyable is it takes itself way too seriously. I think if it had leaned a little bit into a parody, or because there are scenes where it's almost ripping off other films that you've seen like this, like the Rambos and the Missing in Actions and all this kind of stuff. It leans very heavily into those, but it doesn't feel like it's a parody or even a homage to those sort of things. It just kind of feels like rip-offs of them. And like I say, the choreography lets it down. There's a knife fight in the film where she goes up against like this big militia guy, and it's terrible. It's really poorly choreographed. It's quite clumsily done, and it just wasn't particularly entertaining. So I mean, it really does depend on what you're looking for in an action film. I think for me, I thought this was really quite below average for a lot of the regions that I've mentioned. I think some of the performances are cringeworthy, unfortunately. I think some of the action's fairly clumsy and poorly choreographed. And it's a story that is completely familiar and you've seen many, many times before. The only things really worth watching this film for is the performance by Alexandra Faye Sedegayan, who I do honestly think carries the film quite well and gives a decent performance. And if you want to, watch a low-budget action film with cheap thrills in it, really, other than that, there's very, very little to recommend here. It's just not particularly good, unfortunately. So, yeah, there you go, guys. I hope you like the review. I hope you find it useful. I will, of course, be back with more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.